Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of JJ Talks. My name is Jonah and I am once again here with my friend Josh. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic, especially after you beat me at Madden, and I definitely lost that game, and I feel really bad. But it wouldn't be in true fashion if I won. So there's that.
Yeah, I actually played Britt right after, and I beat him like 38-21.
See, I saw a different tale of that happening because I came in mid dinner and I saw that it was a 10-7 a little before halftime, and then whenever I got back, you pulled through and it was 38-21.
Yeah, I got a lot about that game that I can tell you after we record this episode of this podcast, because we've got the AFC North to talk about.
Ooh, the opposite of
Um,
the NFC North.
yes, parallels.
Still
Um,
really cold.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not a big fan of, and you know what? Never mind. We're not gonna go there. So AFC North. Um, just as an overview, obviously this is a division dominated by the Ravens this past year. Lamar Jackson with the MVP year. The Bengals getting rid of Andy Dalton ended up with the first round pick and got Joe Burrow. Uh, so yeah, let's start there. Let's start with the Bengals. So as I said, first round pick, they end up picking up um Joe Burrow with their first pick in the draft. Um, and I think they had a pretty good draft. I mean, when you get the first pick and you got the first pick in every round, hopefully you do have a decent draft. But they got some good players. T. Higgins in the second round, I think, is a big-bodied receiver that can definitely help them. And then,
He's the obvious successor to AJ Green.
yes, I completely agree. I think they're built very similarly. I think T. Higgins has a lower ceiling than AJ Green did. Obviously, when AJ Green came out, he was this bona fide number one. Um,
Mm.
but I think T. Higgins offers a lot of similar things, a big red zone threat. Um, and then in the later rounds, I think the third and the fourth round, they got Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis Gaither, two linebackers. And I think many would agree that the Bengals, one of their biggest issues this past year was in the linebacking core. So I think those are big upgrades there. Um, and then free agency, they spent a lot more money than I expected them to. Um, and I think the Bengals are a talented team that just ended up losing. I think you've referenced this. They lost a lot of close games. Um, but they picked up Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes to for their cornerback group. DJ Reader, I loved that signing by them. A big guy to pair next to Geno Atkins in the middle of that defense and the defensive line. And then Von Bell at safety, they got from the Saints. Um, so I really like their additions. What did you think of their offseason?
Just like you, I like it, and it really seems like the organization is like actively taking a step to at least get better. Uh, my biggest question from them is going to be: is Zach Taylor real? He's had one season. The offensive line was plagued of injuries. It was a tail end of Andy Dalton, at least for the Bengals. Uh, right now, it seems like the tools are there. You have a fresh young QB ready to take on the league. It's going to be a tough division because all four of these teams should be really good. Even the Bengals, who I have projected to go 5-11, just like last year, I don't think they're an easy team to beat. I think 6 or 7 of the games were decided by one possession. Uh, just like the Packers were for the NFC North. Those kinds of things don't translate that well to the very next year. I think my biggest question is going to be if Zach Taylor is fortified to be a head coach.
Yeah, I agree with you. That honestly kind of bounces off to my main question, but it's a different person that I want to see if they're real, and it's Joe Burrow. I want to see,
Ooh.
you're this big number one pick. Some people are saying that he was one of the greatest quarterback prospects we've had in a long time. And as a person that watched him a lot, when he got to LSU, some people forget that his first year at LSU, he was bad. I mean, he was really bad. That entire LSU offense was bad. And in the second year, obviously he had a fantastic Heisman candidacy, um, deserving to be the number one pick. But I want to see, is he more than just a one hit wonder? We've seen a lot of quarterbacks come through that have one great year in college and they go to the pros and they don't really succeed. So,
See, but
so I want to see, Burrow coming in. I don't think he's coming in the worst situation either. I think there's some talent on that Bengals team. They got some good receivers. So can he come in and make a difference? And I'm right there with you with the record. I also have them going 5-11. But I think it's going to be a good 5-11. I think they're going to lose. They got a pretty tough schedule, a good division overall. I think they'll split some games. And I think you'll see some good improvement. But I want to see Joe Burrow. Is he really going to be that franchise guy? And my other question, and maybe you're wondering the same thing, is how's AJ Green? How healthy is he really?
that's like you said, the other question mark I have would be AJ Green, and I personally am totally on board with the rumors of him being traded at some point. Uh, I being a Georgia fan, I loved AJ Green coming out and thought he was great and all, but I think it's time for AJ Green and the Bengals to get a divorce. um, he hasn't played a full season since 2017. He's only played 4 full seasons in his entire career. He hasn't had over 1,000 yards receiving since 2017. He missed almost half the season in 2018. Didn't play any games last year. You could argue that gives him time to recover from his injury and everything, but this is just a shell of an awesome receiver, and that's all you're going to get. And if anything, I wouldn't even project him to play 10 games this season, to be honest. But I think they addressed that with the T. Higgins pick, so I don't think it's exactly like a doomsday thing or doomsday scenario or anything. But I definitely want to have AJ Green coming back into 2021.
Yeah, I agree with you. If the Bengals can find a good suitor, and get some good value off AJ Green, I could definitely see the trade. And like you referenced, Higgins seems very similar to AJ Green, and I think they're thinking of Higgins being that replacement. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of that AJ Green's health hinders on how good the Bengals can be, and then how quick Joe Burrow learns. But yeah, I think despite them possibly finishing in fourth place, which is kind of where we project, I think we both agree that you could definitely see some good improvement from this team.
To me, this is what's going to turn up in this year's Arizona Cardinals. 2 years ago, they take Josh Rosen and they go 3-13, and it's obvious that this dude is just not going to be a franchise quarterback, right? And there's a lot of controversy going into the next draft and getting Kyler Murray. Well, ultimately, they got rid of Josh Rosen, gave him to Miami, and they took Kyler Murray, and they only went 5-10-1, but there was a drastic improvement. And
Mm-hmm.
if you were a Cardinals fan from last year, you were pretty happy. You had your franchise quarterback. You had a rookie head coach come in, and he outperformed my expectations. I didn't have any hope for him because he just hasn't had any success whatsoever. But for whatever reason, it all looked like it worked. Everything passed the eye test, and that's exactly what I think the Bengals are going to do this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully they can get back to competing status and then actually get past the first round of the playoffs when they get back there.
Only time would tell. The only thing that I would not be excited about, Joe Burrow is an awesome prospect, right? And like you said, I don't think it's a bad situation where he ended up at as a team. The only bad part, I think, is what division they went to, because the Ravens, I don't see them going under 500 in the next 3 or 4 years. The Browns look like they're on the up, and they're already ahead of the Bengals as far as like getting their team together and putting the pieces together. And the Steelers, they had a bad season last year, and Big Ben is in an obvious decline. We don't know how much longer he's going to play, but Mike Tomlin has had that team above 500 all but one season in his entire career. So as far as the team landing spot, it's pretty good, but the division, just how tough it's going to be, that's my only concern for that.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. All right, let's move on to our next team, which is a very interesting team in my eyes. The Cleveland Browns. So this is a team that made the headlines last offseason when they traded for Odell Beckham Jr. And everyone was thinking, they were like the preseason darling. They were going to take the division. They were like Super Bowl, or playoff favorites, but Super Bowl favorites to some. Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry were going to be the best duo in the league, and it all fell apart.
Yeah, I think you and I were. It obviously wasn't a happy situation for the Browns, but I think it validated you and I and our expectations for them entering last season.
Yeah, you and I both thought, let's pump the brakes on this. We haven't seen them play it down together yet. Like, just because you get a bunch of good players together does not mean it's going to fit, does not mean it's going to work.
And then you sign your quarterback's coach to be the head coach. He has no experience, but uh, none of the hype was validated at all.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, I really like what they've done this offseason. In terms of free agency, they picked up, I think what the best one is Jack Conklin. They got from, I believe, the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
For as long as we can remember, the Browns needed offensive line help. And that is a huge pickup at offensive tackle. They also picked up Austin Hooper from the Falcons, which personally, when they have David Njoku there, I was a little confused. But I guess maybe they're going to want to run some more two tight end sets. I don't know, but they have Hooper now. They got Adrian Claiborne and Andrew Sendejo for safety. A lot of nice pickups. Also, an interesting pickup. They picked up Case Keenum and gave him a 3-year contract. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think now obviously Baker's going to be the starter, but if things went awry for whatever reason, and we both don't have that happening, but if they did, you have a reliable starter, a proven starter.
Yeah, so those are their free agency additions, and their losses, they only really lost two big people, Joe Schobert and Christian Kirksey, their linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
So they gained a lot, didn't lose too much, but I'll come back to that after I discuss the draft. With their first round pick, they picked up Jedrick Wills, another offensive tackle, which I think was a very smart pick. A lot of people had the Browns going offensive line. They did that, picked up one of the top 4 tackles in the draft.
A lot of people have them as our number one.
Yes. There was a lot
Like
of.
I even think we saw the Giants, like as far as mocks go, taking him at number 4.
Yeah, the top 4 tackles in the draft this past year, depending on your board, they could be in any type of order. So everyone agreed that if you picked one of those tackles, it was a good pick. It was really going to be a good tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second round, they got Grant Delpit, the safety, which I think was a very good pick, good value. And then later on, they got Nick Harris, the center, to help out with that offensive line too. So I like their draft. I like their offseason. But a question that I have that I want to throw to you, they picked up a lot of pieces, but they also lost 2 prime starters at linebacker for them, and it doesn't seem like they really addressed that. So do you think them not addressing, linebacker on their defense, which they've really had an issue with anyways, do you think that could spell some trouble for them, or do you think all these other additions will help offset that?
Well, I think the additions will offset because it's not like they were exactly dynamic last year. I think entering the season last year, whether or not you had high expectations for them or not, uh, the defense was still well rounded, and they were expected to perform better than they did, but they ultimately didn't. So I think if anything, everything offsets, and we're still looking at a middle of the road to a possibly really good defense.
Yeah, I agree with
I
you.
didn't help that old boy had to go take a swing at Mason Rudolph, and he had to miss the rest of the year. But him coming back will be a great addition.
Oh, Miles Garrett. Miles Garrett. But yeah, I think we both agree this is a very talented team. I think the big question is, can they put it all together? And I think this is a very important year for Baker Mayfield. You know, I think it's going to be very interesting to see, can he take that step forward? Because honestly, if he doesn't, you know, I think the Browns are hoping that he can, find himself and be able to produce. And I think we've seen some flashes, but I think this is a big year for him to really prove that he's a franchise quarterback. And I mean, there's really no excuse with Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, an improved offensive line, Jarvis Landry. They also brought back Kareem Hunt. So, that offense needs to produce. I think their defense is going to be at least average to above average. And if there's a year for them to, fight a way to get to the playoff spot, I think this is going to be it.
I'm glad you brought that one up because I also had a question mark around Baker Mayfield and whether or not he would still be the quarterback or not. And I think with both of our expectations, he still would be. But like I said, the Case Keenum pickup isn't exactly just a pure backup role. Things did go south. They have him to put him in, and they have a new head coach now that took the Vikings offensive coordinator who performed pretty well. This is obviously I don't even need to know what's going to happen for the season. This is obviously a better head coach than Freddie Kitchens, and I don't think there would be any kind of rebuttal to that. But if Baker doesn't perform well this year, he wasn't Stefanski's guy. We could be looking at a new QB situation if things don't work out.
Yeah. The Browns have as a team, I feel like they're on the hot seat. Not in terms of a bunch of firings or anything, but they're a team that's very much expected to perform this year, and they have the talent to do it. They just need to put it all together.
Yeah, and when you have such a powerful fan base like the Dog Pound, you finally give them some kind of hope after their long-term dedication, no matter how bad you sucked. Whenever you give people that kind of hope, or even that little sliver of hope, if it doesn't go through, your most diehard fans, even though you did suck for so long, are going to turn on you, and they're not going to endure that again. You're probably going to lose that fan base if that happens.
Yeah, so I think the Browns are going to be a very interesting team to watch this year, and another team that I think will be very interesting is the Steelers. And I've got my own opinions with them, but I want you to start with this. How do you expect, or what have you thought about the Steelers offseason, and what are you expecting from them?
Okay, well, I'm pretty disappointed with the offseason. I still have them ended up going 9-7. I think this is going to be one of the things that we differ on. But the biggest question is quarterback, right? Big Ben went down last year, and as you saw, if they don't have Big Ben, the Steelers fail. And obviously, they did end up going 8-8. They have a stacked defense, but without Big Ben, they just don't have any sort of movement on offense at all. You have Juju now, and you have Deontay Johnson, uh, you have James Conner, and you should be able to move the ball down the field. But when they didn't have Big Ben, everything went south. They couldn't move the ball at all. And then to go into the draft, and you take a wide receiver, you take Chase Claypool, you take Anthony McFarland, who might be James Conner's replacement after this year. You don't address the quarterback situation. Like, what are you going to do if this happens to Big Ben again? This isn't some sort of minor injury or anything. This was the equivalent of a Tommy John surgery for MLB players, and the recovery time for that is what, like 16, 17 months, and we're talking about him coming back in less than a year. It's just there's a lot of question marks. They didn't really address anything. I guess the only thing I'm relying on is still thinking that Big Ben can still perform, but I'm not exactly happy about my 97 prediction for this. But I know you're feeling the opposite. You have them going 7-9. You want to explain?
Yeah, the Steelers, there was not much that I liked. Well, you know what? I'll start with what I liked about their offseason. What I liked about it. They picked up Eric Ebron. I thought that was a very nice pickup for them. You know, I don't think he'll be able to replicate that one fantastic year he had with the Colts, but I think he'll be a very serviceable, above average tight end for
He's an
potentially Big
improvement
Ben.
over Vance McDonald.
Right. So I think he'll be a good red zone target. In terms of the draft, um, they picked up Alex Highsmith, a linebacker, out of Charlotte in the 3rd round. I liked him. I think Anthony McFarland could be a very good running back, and I do agree he could be Connor's replacement. And then a late round pick that they actually picked up, Antoine Brooks Jr., safety out of Maryland. I really liked him and kind of shocked he lasted that long. I think that was a good value pick. But that's about all I liked for the offseason. What I didn't like, they lost Javon Hargrave, who I think is a very big defensive presence that they were going to be sorely missing. In their defense, he went to Philly. So I think they're really going to feel that loss. And then with the draft, they picked up Claypool in the 2nd round. I personally was not a very big fan of Claypool. And I just think, I kind of get picking up receiver, but at the same time, I'm kind of with you. I still question their quarterback situation. And, I mean, Big Ben isn't getting any younger. And I think we have seen that in recent years, Big Ben has not really been playing that well, you know? In the past, from 2015 to 2018, he's thrown 13 or more picks. And again, picks aren't everything, but he's just, I don't know. Big Ben is not himself anymore. He's not the same Big Ben that we were accustomed to. The Hall of Fame caliber Big Ben. He's 38 years old now. He's getting close to 40, and I don't think he's going to be lasting much longer. I think he's one more injury away from really just having to retire. And with just the rest of the team, it's kind of like how I felt with the Packers. I don't know if they got better. And honestly, I would make a strong argument that they just got worse from the fact that they didn't improve anything.
Well, my argument with that would be I love their 1st round pick, Minka Fitzpatrick. I thought that was a great trade.
See, I like Minka. I do. The issue that I have with that, though, is he's not going to fix that defense. I think they've
Well, they
still
don't need any fixing on defense at all.
I would disagree. I think they need help in the linebacking core, and in terms of corners,
you don't think Highsmith would address that?
Not really. I think he's more of a depth guy. I don't think he's ready to step in right away. And can you even name a single one of their corners?
Nope.
Okay. Well, they lost one of those in free agency, Artie Burns. He's gone. So, really, they've got Watt, who I think can have a really good year, but they lost Hargrave, and they've got Minka, and I really like Minka, but that's pretty much it. So they've lost a lot, and I'm pretty concerned with their defense. And then offensively, I'm just I don't know. I think Big Ben has a lot to prove. Does he still have it? I think Juju Smith-Schuster has a lot to prove. Can he be that number one? And was he not just a good number two next to Antonio Brown?
See, I still
He's
believe in Juju.
I do too. He just needs to show it.
Right. The good thing that he has on him is he has experience now, and if anything, they figured out that Mason Rudolph and Doug Hodges are not the future, so that helps out. They were god awful, and they did pick up Deontay Johnson, but Juju's been in longer, and he's younger than him. So I still think Juju has it. I think he's going to be a good receiver.
Is Juju going into a contract year?
I believe so. That there's talks of him not being re-signed, or he's going to be wanting more than what the Steelers are going to be willing to give.
Yeah, so I think he with him going into a contract year, I think he has a lot to prove. I think James Conner has a lot to prove. Can he even stay healthy? Is he a true lead back?
I
So
don't even think he's going to be playing next year, 2021. At least
yeah,
not for the Steelers.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's
Generally what you see is that whenever you have like an injury prone running back who's on their last year, the team will just run the wheels off of them until they get hurt.
yeah. So I guess that's my reasoning with my 7-9 prediction. There's just so many question marks I have with this team right now. And if there's anything that I think will be able to keep them above water, it's the coaching. They have a tremendous coaching staff, and that coaching staff gets the most out of their players. What seems like every year, but I think this year, just in terms of just talent and how the team is, I think it's going to come back to bite them. So yeah, I've actually got them third in my predictions for the AFC North.
Funny is, I also got them third, but my record would show as a fringe playoff team, and with the extension, that would push them into getting in as the final seed. The reason why the offseason sucks is because they don't have any kind of plan for after Big Ben, or if he does fall down. They definitely should have been hitting up this market. Cam Newton's still out there. You might as well go get them. I know he wants to be a starter, but if you throw him a bone, like, hey, Big Ben is still here, but we still believe in you, you can have this job after he's gone, maybe that would work.
One thing I'd find it very interesting is what about Josh Rosen?
See, that would be great. Like, to me, he's still kind of improving. We haven't really seen that much of him. Like, I know Arizona moved off to him, and he had an awful start, but it was very clear that they weren't even planning to win. I mean, if you watched any of their games, they were just purely running David Johnson up the middle, and that was it. They weren't even really like giving him a chance. And obviously, he goes to Miami last year, and I think he would have been better off ending with the team that Miami had at the end of the year versus starting it. But he's still improving. He's still very young. It would behoove them if they actually went after him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Josh Rosen has talent. I just think he has been put in one of the worst situations I've seen someone put in so far. I mean, you get drafted by this team on an extremely terrible team, ends up with a first round pick. They pick or first overall pick. They take a quarterback. They ship you to another god awful team, and then they pick up a quarterback. And it's just like he hasn't been given that much of a chance. He's had like a couple starts here and there, but that team has been terrible. And I think Rosen does not need to be shipped to another team where he can start right away. I think he needs to be put behind a veteran. He needs to be seasoned. He needs to grow and he needs to learn. And I think with Big Ben kind of going into his twilight years, that's a good opportunity for Big Ben to kind of groom his successor and for Rosen to learn from a very, very good quarterback. And, maybe in 1 or 2 years, he could find himself as being the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, let's say this does happen. I just hope he doesn't pick up Big Ben's diet at all. Like, I'm pretty sure Big Ben wakes up in the morning and he has a pint of just bacon grease.
Wow.
Like, it's pretty well known that he doesn't work out or even like remotely try to be healthy. He just works on just eating and getting bigger.
Well, as far as I know, Rosen is fairly. I'm pretty sure Rosen's kind of skinny, so I think it would take a lot for him to replicate Big Ben.
One off season, he could probably do it.
uh,
Do you
anyways,
think he could grow a beard like Big Ben?
moving forward, we're gonna go to the reigning division champs, with the reigning MVP, the Baltimore Ravens. Um, Honestly, for me, there's not much to say. I mean, I think they're the best team in the division. Um, I think the fact that in the first round they had Patrick Queen fall right in their lap was a great pick because like their main need to me was linebacker, and they got the best I think
Arguably
coverage
the best
linebacker.
one.
Yeah, literally fell right in their lap. They didn't even have to move. And then the second round, I loved the J.K. Dobbins pickup. I thought that's gonna be a great 1-2 punch of him and Mark Ingram.
That was part of that Falcons trade, wasn't it? Too. That was their second rounder, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the Ravens, I don't see many holes. I think their biggest weakness last year was inexperience. I think that showed in the playoffs. Being rested for 2 weeks, Lamar Jackson came out against the Titans, didn't play well. But I think he's going to learn from that. Um, I think they're going to go about 12-4 this upcoming season.
That's exactly what I had.
Nice, great minds think alike. But yeah, so I think they're gonna have a good year. I think Lamar Jackson's gonna play. I don't think he's gonna have necessarily the same MVP year that he had, but I think he's gonna play well. I think he's gonna improve as a passer. Um, I mean, yeah, I ain't got much else to say. I think they're one of the best teams out there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find content about a team that's obviously going to be really good, and the division is tough, but they're just going to end up replicating what they did last year. Lamar is only going to get better. The only concern would be the passing attack, and they've already, especially this past week, they've already started addressing that they're going to be working on his passing. They had Hollywood Brown last year, was a pretty good rookie. Hopefully he'll be better entering this season. They trade away Hayden Hurst to the Falcons to ultimately get J.K. Dobbins in the second round, which is going to be a great pick because you have Mark Ingram in his contract year. He was injured at the end of the year last year. You're just going to end up running him out until you had to put J.K. Dobbins in. And not only can J.K. Dobbins run, he can catch the ball too. He's everything you want in a rookie running back. Everything went well for them. Just kind of like how the Cowboys, how the draft fell to them. This is exactly what happened to the Ravens. And obviously, he broke Michael Vick's rushing record last year without a problem. I don't expect him to run as much, but I still expect him to be as efficient. And with the young team and improving the passing, there's not much to not like about anything about this team. One of my favorite offseason pickups by any team was the absolute steal of Calais Campbell was for a
Oh my
fifth rounder.
goodness. I believe so. Yeah. The how? I mean,
Like, I know the Jags were purposely, trying to get picks and stuff, but a fifth rounder for Calais Campbell, a fifth rounder is going to be nothing for all you know. Calais Campbell is a proven commodity.
yeah,
I
like
honestly don't know how that happened. This is some like Howie Roseman like kind of trade talks. I don't know how it happens, but here we are now.
yeah, I mean, Calais Campbell is, you know, obviously getting older, but I mean, last year obviously was on a bad Jags team, still had
Mm-hmm.
6.5 sacks, and the 2 years before he had 10.5 and 14.5. So he's still racking up sacks, and he's still got a very high pressure rate. think he's going to come in right away in that defense. And he doesn't even have to be an every down player. Like, he could be a rotational pass rusher and literally, like, don't even worry about rundowns. Just go out there, rush the passer. I think he'll have a great year for that defense. And it's like the Ravens just made their strength, which has always been their defense, even stronger with the additions of Patrick Queen and him and Calais Campbell. It's just, yeah, I'm with you there. I don't understand how that trade happened.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago when they got Marcus Peters. The only question was he going to perform with him in his age? And here we are. He's still great. And yeah, Patrick Queen, yeah, Calais Campbell. There was nothing wrong with the Ravens team. Like, I really can't think of a fault. Like, the only fault I could possibly think of is an unproven one, and that would be, do teams figure out Lamar Jackson? And maybe you could say Tennessee figured it out, but I don't think it really had anything to do with the defense stopping him that much, as more as the Titans were just absolutely on fire last year and finally got their quarterback and unleashed Derrick Henry. And I think that was a big part of how the game script played out for that. We'll see. I guess if there was a proven negative, it would be, once you get to the playoffs, you have to get a win. If you're looking at what our records are going to be right now, they're probably going to have a home game. You have to win. Now is the time to win.
Yeah, and if making sure you win in the playoffs is your biggest issue, I think you're doing just fine. So
yeah.
All right. Well, any last minute thoughts on the AFC North or anything else?
Well, how do you have the division playing out? Because I have the Bengals being last to 5-11. I have in third, but in a tie with the Browns at 9-7, and then obviously Ravens 12-4 first.
I've got the Bengals at 5-11. In third, the Steelers at 7-9. The Browns just above them, going 8-8. And then, as I said before, Ravens at 12-4. I think the Bengals, the Browns, you'll definitely see some improvement. The Ravens, I think they're just going to be good. And then the Steelers, I expect a bit of a drop-off.
But with that, we'll go ahead and end right here. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about the AFC and the NFC East. You have anything else you want to end off with, Jonah?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just ready for football to come back, man. Or any sports at this rate.
God, just give me anything. Like that golf matchup between Tiger and Tom and what's the other guy's name? Mickelson. I'm not a golf fan. And Manning. That was amazing compared to what we've gotten so far.
Seriously, for those that don't know, I'm also a baseball fan. I should be able to watch some baseball right now. That's not even going on. So I come on, sports gods, give us a little something. I need something, anything.
I think I have a new least favorite sport, and that is NASCAR. Because we went to Mark and Angie's, was it whenever the golf matchup was happening, and we were going back and forth, and the golf matchup was much more watchable than NASCAR. I don't understand how you're watching the same car go in 400 damn laps the whole time. Like, we were there for probably 3 or 4 hours, and they weren't even halfway through. Like, okay, that's just my spiel. NASCAR is the worst sport. End of story.
All right, on that note, thank you all for joining with us another episode of JJ Talks, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.